your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition.
Hi, I'm Naveen Day. Thanks for joining us for a look at what made headlines this past week. Lethbridge County has issued a fire ban due to hot and dry windy conditions that elevate the risk of wildfires to extreme. All burning is prohibited for residents, which includes campfires, incinerators, charcoal barbecues, and fireworks. Despite recent precipitation, the county says the wildfires currently raging across Western Canada are an apparent sign to negate any potential risks.
So we work with the province, and we also work with fire data that the province provides on a daily basis. It's to do with the dryness of the vegetation, as well as the amount of fire spread throughout that vegetation. So right now we're in extreme risk, and that's why we went to the fire ban. So even though we've had moisture in the last few days, but with the wind and the combination of the heat and the driving heat temperatures is driving up the risk. Overnight, actually, from the province, we've just realized that we've gone from 20 out of control wildfires to 25, which is quite alarming for fire officials across the province.
The county and surrounding communities are joining forces on a new strategy to strengthen collaborative disaster response. The Regional Emergency Management Plan also includes the towns of Coaldale, Nobleford, Picture Butte, and the village of Barrons. Lethbridge County Emergency Management Coordinator Bria Taminga says administrative staff recently met for a briefing that provided them with the tools needed to coordinate responses to large-scale or long-term disasters.
There's lots of hazards that are in southern Alberta, anywhere from our grass fires, flooding, train derailments are really the big ones that we do see, as well as severe weather such as tornadoes, as well as utility disruptions. So prolonged power outages could also be a reason that we might need to activate this to support the residents. So our next steps are really to do that orientation and training for our municipal staff. It's not just the ambulances and the fire trucks and the police, it's all of our municipal staff working together to support this plan. Continuing to do our incident command system training. We have a 200 level training scheduled, as well as some 300 for September, and then into November we'll be doing a tabletop with all of the municipalities.
The plan provides guidance on establishing emergency operations centers and communication protocols for informing the public, as well as risk assessments and training plans for recovery in affected communities. Lethbridge City Council has approved a new incentive for business in certain sectors looking to invest in the city. The Business Development, Expansion and Retention Incentive Program will award businesses in agriculture, trade and logistics, and alternate and renewable energy. Those that spend over $2 million will receive a grant tied to property taxes that will cover incremental increases in their investments. Mayor Blaine Higgins said that he brought the resolution forward last year after hearing from business owners looking to come into Lethbridge, and this will make it easier for them to invest in the city.
My statement has always been we're open for business, and so in order to do that we need to be competitive with some of the other communities that maybe these folks have reached out to. So it's really something that is incentivize folks to expand their business in town or new business to come to town, and so we found that to be just extremely beneficial. I'm glad to see where we're at now. One thing is we did have similar programs in our downtown core, but we heard loud and clear that this has to be something that's available for the community as a whole, not just in the downtown core. And so I think that's an exciting part about this. These new incentives are that they are community-wide.
The rates that the grants will cover tax increases will begin at 100% coverage in the first year and taper to 50% by year 5. Alberta Health Services has issued a warning about the water in Writing on Stone Provincial Park southeast of Lethbridge. Due to elevated levels of fecal bacteria currently present in the water, AHS is advising the public not to swim or wade at the beach area effective immediately. The fecal bacteria was found in a water sample taken from the Milk River. AHS says at current levels, gastrointestinal illness may result from ingestion of the water at this beach. Also, there's the possibility of skin, ear, and eye infections. AHS environmental public health officers will continue to monitor the water at Writing on Stone Provincial Park, but the advisory is in effect until further notice. After the break, the King visits Canada and the House of Commons held its first question period. We have the details next. Prime Minister Mark Carney is applauding a decision by the U.S. Court of International Trade, which announced it would be striking down President Donald Trump's broad-based tariffs against several countries. The U.S. Court of International Trade ruled Trump does not have the authority to impose tariffs through the International Economic Emergency Powers Act.
Mr. Speaker, the government welcomes yesterday's decision by the U.S. Court of International Trade, which is consistent with Canada's long-standing position that the U.S. IEEPA tariffs were unlawful as well as unjustified. That said, we recognize that our trading relationship with the United States is still profoundly and adversely threatened and affected by similarly unjustified 232 tariffs against steel, aluminum, and the auto sector, as well as continuing threats of tariffs against other strategic sectors, including lumber, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. It therefore remains the top priority of Canada's new government to establish a new economic and security relationship with the United States and to strengthen our collaboration with reliable trading partners and allies around the world.
The Trump administration filed a notice of appeal soon after the court ruling came down. Now, as for the business reaction to the U.S. court ruling, experts say Canadian businesses are not out of the woods yet. They warn that nothing changes overnight with this ruling, especially because Trump's administration filed a notice of appeal.
The market reaction in the short term, as we've seen, is relief. Generally, if tariffs go down, markets are happy. And conversely, if we see tariffs going up, markets are not happy. But how permanent this turns out to be, certainly in the context of the other measures which haven't been challenged, is really the key question. We know how important tariffs are to Trump's worldview. He's been talking about this for decades. So as you point out, you imagine the administration is not going to give up. And from that point of view, I would think the other countries that are negotiating with the U.S. Might think it's worth sticking with the negotiations because in the end, we imagine it is going to be something that the U.S. either can agree or disagree with, depending on how the partners react.
Even if the ruling is eventually upheld, Morris says Trump could potentially try to use several alternative levers to reimpose tariffs against Canada and other countries that were ruled unconstitutional. Business groups in Canada also say they don't feel the ruling brings any new certainty right now. 343 members of Parliament were in their seats in the House of Commons Thursday for the first question period of the new session. It's also Prime Minister Mark Carney's first time in the House as an elected official. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was not in the House, having lost his Ottawa seat in the election. He's hoping to return following a by-election in Alberta. In the House, opposition leader Andrew Scheer fired this volley at Carney.
Since the election, Canadians have been inundated with grand rhetoric and pretty speeches from this Liberal Party, but they are still suffering under all those policies. Household debt up at record levels, number of people who can't pay their mortgages increasing, food bank use continuing to rise. Now TD Bank is forecasting a recession with hundreds of thousands of lost jobs. The PM said undoing the damage of the last 10 years would require great speed, but he's not going to table a budget for 6 months. If he's the man with the plan and the guy you hire in a crisis, why won't he table a budget before he goes on summer vacation?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the member of the opposition is very busy, didn't have a chance to study closely the 100-day plan of the former member from Ottawa, Carleton, which did not include a budget. Our plan includes legislating. Our plan includes legislating for one Canadian economy and nation-building projects immediately to grow this economy, and we expect the support from all in this House.
Now, this came a day after King Charles formally opened Parliament by reading the speech from the throne in a rare event for Canada's monarch. After inspecting a 100-person honor guard and receiving a 21-gun salute, King Charles and Queen Camilla entered the Senate building as trumpets played, walking past members of Parliament and Indigenous leaders. He then read the throne speech, setting out Prime Minister Mark Carney's priorities for the current session and his vision for nation building and economic growth.
The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests, to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone. Many Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time home buyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000. And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million.
And King Charles's visit brought a lot of chatter about this being a show of strength. Now, we've seen some competing polls on the issue. What do Canadians actually think about this? To answer that question and more is political reporter Brian Lilley, who sat down with BCN's Jeanette Rocher.
A poll by Polara, a Toronto firm, asked, is it a good thing that the king is reading the speech from the throne? And on that, not the majority, but the plurality, about 45% said yes. Liberals more excited about the king reading the speech from the throne than supporters of any other party, obviously, because it's a Liberal government and the Liberal government is lenient into it. I guarantee you, if it was a Conservative government and this were happening, Conservatives would be the most supportive of this and Liberals less so. So, it's always a bit of which side do I support, plays into all of this. But the Angus Reid Institute asked a different set of questions, and the overwhelming majority just said, I don't care. It was only about 12% in Alberta said they were excited about the king reading the speech from the throne. The high was about 21% here in Ontario, and then up and down across the country. So the connection between Canada and the monarchy is not as strong as it used to be. In fact, even the Governor General's office put out a post on social media saying this is a great coming together of our two nations, and had a British flag and a Canadian flag. Well, no, King Charles, when he's here, is the King of Canada. He's not representing a foreign country. He is representing Canada. And the Governor General's office, which should know this, I'm not saying everyone watching needs to know that, but the Governor General's office should know that and understand it. And even they clearly don't. So I don't think the ties with the monarchy are as great as they once were.
Okay, so maybe let's get into some of the details. So what were the key takeaways from the speech today, Brian?
Well, if you paid attention during the election, you know what was said. This was essentially a rundown of Mark Carney and the Liberals' election promises and platforms read out with a very distinguished British accent. So maybe it sounded a bit more regal. He talked about building infrastructure projects. I'm sure that is something that everyone in Alberta's ears perked up at and said, oh, yeah, we want to hear more about that. Well, not a lot of details. It's not like they said, and we'll approve a new version of Northern Gateway or revive Energy East. But they did talk about natural or national infrastructure projects, did mention conventional energy, but still doesn't seem to like to utter the words oil or gas. I know it's the king reading it, but the speech comes from the Prime Minister and his team. Oil and gas not mentioned, but conventional energy, which is how he's describing it, that was mentioned.
Okay, so getting away from that, the first thing the House of Commons did when the MPs finally returned to Ottawa for the first time in nearly 5 months was elect a speaker. So, Brian, why did the Conservatives who wanted to run drop out? And also, is it a good or bad thing that the Liberal MP Francis Scarpaleggia defeated fellow Liberal Greg Fergus for this job?
I think it's a very good thing that Francis Scarpaleggia defeated Greg Fergus, because Greg Fergus, in my view, was very bad at being speaker. The speaker is supposed to be the impartial referee. They're supposed to, put it in baseball terms if you want, they're just there to call balls and strikes. Or in hockey, they're in the striped jersey, there to make sure both teams are playing a fair game. Greg Fergus let his liberal partisanship show too often when he was in the role. Francis Scarpaleggia is someone who's been an MP since 2004. He's boring, and that's good. Okay, you don't want the speaker being the showy person, the flashy person. We had one of those in the UK a few years ago, and he'd yell out order in this really dramatic way. The show was all about him. As I said, the speaker should be quiet and in the background, not taking away from the prime minister or the leader of the opposition or the various MPs speaking. You shouldn't notice them until they're making a ruling, and if they're making a ruling, hopefully it's fair. As for why the Conservative dropped out, I think there was a good chance that Chris d'Entremont, who's from Nova Scotia, I thought he could have won. I thought the Liberals would have backed him. It would have been good for the Liberals, take a Conservative vote off of the table. They need fewer votes to pass anything contentious. And I think that's why the Conservatives said, you know what, if you're on our team, we don't want you running for Speaker, because that will put us in a bad position. We're not going to be seeing confidence votes anytime soon, but I think they just wanted to send the message.
Now, last weekend, the Liberal caucus met in Ottawa, where Prime Minister Mark Carney laid out his political agenda to the newly elected Liberal MPs. He says, in part, his government has been elected to do nothing less than define a new economic and security relationship with the United States and build a strong Canadian economy.
Canadians also want their life to become more affordable. They want their communities safer. We will deliver these mandates with urgency and determination. To get going, we're going to introduce several key pieces of legislation. We are going to legislate to toughen the criminal code for those who are threatening the safety of Canadians by making bail harder to get for those charged with stealing cars, with home invasion, with drug smuggling, with human trafficking.
A new report says lax manufacturing standards and a breakdown of pipe materials were likely the root cause of a water main break that devastated Calgary last year. The Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Alberta says there's nothing to suggest malpractice by the city led to the rupture. It says the feeder main was expected to function for 100 years, but relaxed standards around the time of its construction in the 1970s may have led to the premature failure. Calgarians were asked to severely limit their water use last summer after one of its two main water pipes burst, and the city found numerous sections of pipe needed repairs. The Alberta NDP has officially announced the 3 candidates that will represent the party in provincial by-elections on June the 23rd. Leader Naheed Nenshi will run in Edmonton Strathcona, a seat previously held by former leader Rachel Notley. Nenshi will be trying to win a seat in the legislature for the first time. Nenshi is seen here with Gurtej Singh Brar. He will represent the NDP in Edmonton Ellerslie. And Bev Taves will try to win a seat for the NDP in Olds Three Hills. A seat was previously held by the former Speaker of the Legislature, Nathan Cooper, who will now be representing Alberta in Washington, D.C. Nenshi says these by-elections are important.
It's time for people to be able to send a message to this government. It is a message that we don't have to settle for what they're doing. We don't have to settle for substandard public services. We don't have to settle for unbridled corruption. We don't have to settle for an incompetent government. We deserve better, and better is possible.
Advanced polls for voting will open on Tuesday, June 17th, and will remain open until Saturday, June the 21st. A woman who escaped from an Alberta prison and taunted police on social media has been arrested in BC. Late last month, the Alberta Justice Centre informed police that 24-year-old Mackenzie Dawn Hardy had been inadvertently released from the Fort Saskatchewan Correctional Centre due to fraud. After the escape, Hardy taunted police on social media, saying she was a step ahead of them and they couldn't catch her. RCMP were able to determine that Hardy had been assisted in the escape by 27-year-old David Joseph Wood. On Tuesday of this week, an RCMP officer in Revelstoke observed two individuals recognized as Hardy and Wood walking away from a stolen vehicle. Both suspects were arrested. Wood has been charged with assisting the escape of a prisoner, identity fraud, and uttering a forged document. On top of Hardy's outstanding warrants, she has also been charged with escaping lawful custody. They will both be transported back to Alberta. The Alberta government is asking parents for feedback on what kinds of materials they want to see in school libraries. Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaides says the move was spurred by 4 sexually explicit graphic novels found to be in circulation in public schools in Edmonton and Calgary.
A group of parents approached me and provided me with excerpts from many of these books and other material. Initially, to be very honest, I was very skeptical. I thought that this was maybe examples from other jurisdictions or other countries. They showed me information, though, that suggested that it was indeed available at a variety of different schools. And what really got me concerned is when they indicated that they had information that demonstrated this was available in elementary schools. So that's why we took a closer look over the next couple of months to see if this was indeed the case and validated and verified the information, which we've confirmed is indeed the case. So that was the particular incident that kind of raised this to our attention. You know, there are mechanisms already in place for parents to be able to challenge the content of any particular book that may exist in a school library. But I think there's a little bit more work that we need to do in that regard. So I hope that we can get a more robust answer from parents and from school trustees and administrators as we conduct this engagement over the next few months.
Nicolaides says some preliminary polling done this month shows 94% of parents surveyed don't want sexually explicit material in elementary schools, with 85% saying parents should have a say in what's in their school library. An online survey is available at alberta.ca until June the 6th. The minister is also warning parents that the sexually explicit material in question is part of the survey. So why are these books in our school libraries? Joining me to discuss this is Jeff Park. He is the executive director of the Alberta Parents Union to share his thoughts. Now, these books were found in libraries in Edmonton and Calgary after parents complained to the schools. What kind of graphic content are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about the kind of graphic content that I assume you won't even be able to show on your family program here, or if you do, it will be heavily edited. And we should note that those blurs, if they are being shown, were not there for the 5-year-olds who could have accessed them in their elementary schools. And so we're talking about very graphic sexual content. We're not talking about diagrams or instructional material. We're talking about illustrations of sexual acts that are 100% not appropriate for children.
Now, I know the Alberta Teachers Association is complaining that the government is targeting the LGBTQ+ community, but the books seem to have content in them like that suggests pedophilia, incest, also suicide ideation. So that should concern both heterosexual and LGBT members of the community.
Absolutely, and some of these themes we're even concerned about as we get up into older age ranges. Anything that could be reasonably taken to encourage underage sexual activity, reasonably taken or taken by a teenager, which may be a lower level of reasonableness, to encourage underage sexual activity is inappropriate for children of any age, really. But a lot of these materials we're very concerned about at the younger ages, and frankly, we find it offensive, the idea that to promote understanding of marginalized sexual minority communities would require graphic sexual content shown to children. I think that is not going to promote understanding of minority sexual communities at all. And were I a representative of them, would not want that to be claimed of me.
In sports news, the Stanley Cup final is a rematch with Connor McDavid and the Oilers about to face the defending champion Florida Panthers. Edmonton eliminated Dallas in 5 games, striking early in a 6-3 win to clinch the Western Conference title Thursday night.
The Oilers are off to another Stanley Cup final. A familiar opponent awaits. Connor McDavid had a goal and an assist as Edmonton beat the Dallas Stars 6-3 to win the NHL's Western Conference final 4-1.
I think we spent 7 months getting ready for this playoff run. Training camp, regular season, it was just kind of punching our card, showing up, wanting the playoffs, just having another opportunity. And everyone stepped up at different times. And, you know, we've got a lot of guys who've contributed, which really feels good.
McDavid's breathtaking breakaway goal in the second period stopped a Dallas surge in his tracks to make the score 4-2 after Edmonton jumped out to an early 3-0 lead.
My hockey brain goes to that's probably one of the nicest goals I've seen him score. Just the whole situation, how it played out, who he had coming up behind him. There's only one player in the world that can do that in that moment, and you know, we're very fortunate to have him on our side.
Corey Perry, Matthias Janmark, Jeff Skinner, and Kasperi Kapanen into the empty net also scored for the Oilers, who will face the Florida Panthers in the title series for the second straight June.
We were opportunistic tonight, for sure, going up by 3 with you know, in the first 5 minutes. That's a long way home, you know, and I thought obviously the 4-2 goal is big, but I think even bigger is the 5-3, you know, and we were able to find a way to get a win.
Florida jumped out to a 3-0 lead in last year's final. Edmonton then ripped off 3 consecutive victories, largely on the back of McDavid's record-breaking playoff performance before the Panthers won Game 7 on home ice.
We know what they're about. We played them 7 times. Obviously, it's nice to get a shot at you know, getting some revenge, but we're a long ways from that. So we'll enjoy this tonight and move on and get ready.
If it's going to change, we got to play our best hockey. You know, and a lot of credit to Florida. They might even be better than they were last year. You know, for a team to get there 3 years in a row, that's not by accident.
Florida took this year's East bracket 4-1 over the Carolina Hurricanes. Game 1 of the Cup final goes Wednesday in Edmonton at Rogers Place.
Up next, Alberta's Minister of Affordability and Utilities, Nathan Neudorf, weighs in on if there's any hope for change when it comes to U.S. tariffs and federal government restrictions on our province's oil and gas. And if you're watching us online, that full interview is available on our YouTube channel.